The alarm blared through the Intergalactic Transport Vessel, Horizon, jolting Ryan Daniels from his sleep. He sat up too quickly, causing the room to spin as his head pounded with a ferocity that reminded him of the hangovers from his college days. Except this time, he hadn't touched a drop of alcohol in weeks, not since boarding this vessel as Earth's newest ambassador to the Galactic Alliance. Warning: human biological anomaly detected in Deck 4, Cabin 12. Medical personnel en route, announced the ship's AI in its unervingly calm voice. Ryan groaned, realizing the warning was about him. He felt terrible. His throat was raw, his sinuses clogged, and his body ached in places he didn't know could ache. Fumbling for the bedside touchpad, he checked his temperature, 101.3 degrees Fahrenheit. "Great," he muttered, his voice raspy. "Just a bad cold." The door to his quarters hissed open without warning, and three figures rushed in wearing what looked like hazmat suits. Leading them was Zex, the ship's head nurse, a 7-foot-tall Venusian with iridescent blue skin and 4 arms that moved with remarkable precision. Behind Zex were 2 medical assistants carrying equipment Ryan didn't recognize. "Ambassador Daniels," Zex's voice came through a translator attached to the suit. "Please remain still. Our sensors detected a dangerous elevation in your body temperature and unusual respiratory patterns." Ryan tried to wave them off. "It's just a cold, Zex. Happens all the time to humans." Zex froze, all 4 hands suddenly still as the large, almond-shaped eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of alarm in Venusian body language that Ryan had learned to recognize. "Hey, cold." Zex's translator struggled with the word. "Ambassador, your core temperature is rising at an alarming rate. The pathogen skin indicates aggressive microbial activity throughout your respiratory system. This is not a minor ailment, it appears to be fatal." Ryan blinked. Then, despite feeling awful, he couldn't help but laugh, which immediately triggered a coughing fit. When he recovered, he saw all 3 aliens had backed away. "Sorry," he wheezed, "but it's really just a common cold virus. Humans get them all the time. I'll be miserable for a few days, but I'm not dying." "This cannot be correct," Zex insisted, consulting a handheld device. "According to our medical database, any species exhibiting these symptoms has an 87% mortality rate without immediate treatment." Before Ryan could argue further, the medical assistants activated a floating stretcher beside his bed. "Wait, what are you doing?" Ryan protested as they moved to transfer him. "Quarantine protocol," Zex stated firmly. "If what you have is contagious, we must isolate you immediately. The fate of everyone aboard this vessel depends on it." Ryan tried to resist, but his aching body betrayed him, and he was too weak to put up much of a fight. Within minutes, he found himself being transported through the ship's corridors, watching as crew members of various species pressed themselves against walls to avoid contact. The medical bay of the Horizon was a marvel of technology that would make any Earth hospital look like a medieval infirmary. Ryan was placed in a sealed, transparent chamber at the far end of the facility, clearly designed for isolation cases. Zex approached the chamber, now joined by Dr. Corlin, the ship's chief medical officer. Corlin was a Draci, a reptilian species with scaled skin the color of burnished copper and a crest that raised when agitated as it was now. "Ambassador Daniels," Dr. Corlin's voice came through the chamber's communication system. "I understand you believe your condition is non-life-threatening." Ryan nodded, suppressing another cough. "It's a rhinovirus, a common cold. Humans catch them regularly. It's uncomfortable, but rarely dangerous." Dr. Corlin and Zex exchanged glances that Ryan couldn't interpret. "Ambassador, Dr. Corlin said slowly, "Our scans show your immune system is mounting a massive response. Your respiratory passages are inflamed, your temperature is dangerously elevated, and there are signs of viral replication throughout your upper respiratory tract. In every other species we've encountered, these symptoms progress to systemic organ failure within 36 to 48 hours. Ryan sighed, wishing he had access to some simple cold medicine. "Look, humans have lived with these viruses for thousands of years. Our bodies know how to fight them off. I just need rest, fluids, and maybe some decongestants if you have anything compatible with human physiology." Dr. Corlin's crest flattened slightly, a sign of confusion or concern. "This is unprecedented." The medical database has no record of a species that routinely survives such an infection without intervention. Well, now you can update your database, Ryan said, trying to smile despite his discomfort. Humans are pretty resilient when it comes to these common bugs. Dr. Corlin turned to Zex. Contact the Galactic Medical Council immediately. We need verification and any available information on human respiratory infections. In the meantime, prepare a full spectrum of antiviral treatments compatible with human biology. Wait, Ryan called out. Don't go pumping me full of alien medications just yet. This really is minor for humans. I promise you, I've had worse colds than this and recovered just fine without medical intervention. Dr. Corlin approached the chamber, studying Ryan with intense yellow eyes. Ambassador, I respect your knowledge of your own species, but as Chief Medical Officer, I cannot ignore what our diagnostics are telling us. This pathogen displays characteristics similar to the Nexus fever that wiped out the entire Braxian colony in the Rigel system. Ryan's protest died in his throat. He knew enough about the Braxian extinction to understand the gravity of the comparison. Maybe this wasn't just alien overreaction after all. Okay, he conceded. How about this? Let me contact Earth's medical database and show you the information on human common cold viruses. Then you can compare it with your readings and see for yourself. Dr. Corlin considered this for a moment, then nodded. A reasonable request. I will have a secure terminal brought to your isolation chamber. As Dr. Corlin left to make arrangements, Zex remained by the chamber, for arms folded in what Ryan had learned was a posture of deep concern. Ambassador, Zex said quietly, I understand you believe your assessment is correct, but please understand our caution. 3 cycles ago, we lost an entire diplomatic delegation from Tarsus Prime to what began as similar symptoms. By the time we recognized the severity, it was too late. Ryan felt a pang of guilt for dismissing their concerns so readily. I appreciate your caution, Zex. I really do. But human biology is. Well, we've evolved alongside thousands of viruses and bacteria on Earth. What's deadly to other species might just be an inconvenience to us. A fascinating evolutionary adaptation, Zex mused. But still, we must be certain. A few minutes later, a terminal was delivered to Ryan's chamber through an airlock system. He quickly established a connection to Earth's medical database and pulled up comprehensive information on rhinoviruses and other common cold pathogens. Dr. Corlin returned, accompanied by another alien Ryan hadn't met before, a tall, willowy being with pale, almost translucent skin and eyes that seemed to change color as they moved. The doctor introduced her as Alara, the ship's xenobiologist. Ambassador Daniels, Alara greeted him, her voice melodic and soothing. I specialize in cross-species biological analysis. May I review the information you've gathered? Ryan nodded, sending the data to the main medical display. For the next hour, he watched as the 3 aliens pored over human medical texts, comparing them with their own readings and engaging in animated discussion that the translator couldn't quite keep up with. Finally, Dr. Corlin approached the chamber again. Ambassador, we have reviewed the data, and there appears to be a discrepancy in our understanding. The pathogen affecting you does indeed match what humans call a common cold virus, but its behavior in your system is remarkably similar to several lethal pathogens we've encountered. So you believe me now? Ryan asked hopefully. We believe that your species has developed an extraordinary tolerance for what would be lethal infections in other species, Alara said, her eyes shifting to a deep blue. It's quite remarkable, actually. The human immune response is both aggressive and precisely calibrated. You essentially live in harmony with microorganisms that would devastate other sentient populations. Ryan felt a strange mix of pride and unease at this assessment. So can I go back to my quarters now? Dr. Corlin's crest rose slightly. I'm afraid not. While we accept that you personally are not in danger, we must ensure this pathogen cannot spread to non-human crew members. You will need to remain in isolation until we can confirm it poses no threat to others. Ryan slumped back on the medical bed. How long will that take? At minimum, 3 standard cycles, Alara replied. We need to run comprehensive simulation models for each of the 17 sentient species currently aboard the Horizon. 3 days in isolation was not how Ryan had planned to spend his time, especially with important diplomatic meetings approaching. But he understood their caution. Fine, he sighed. But can I at least get something for these symptoms? My head feels like it's going to explode. Zex immediately began preparing something at a nearby console. I am synthesizing a human-compatible analgesic and decongestant based on your medical database. It should provide relief without interfering with your natural immune response. Within minutes, a small cup of blue liquid appeared in the chamber's delivery slot. Ryan eyed it suspiciously. It's perfectly safe, Zex assured him. The formula matches what your database calls extra-strength cold medicine, with minor modifications to ensure compatibility with our synthesizing process. Ryan took a cautious sip and was surprised by the pleasant taste like blueberries with a hint of mint. Almost immediately, he felt his sinuses begin to clear. Wow, he said, genuinely impressed. This works faster than anything I've ever taken on Earth. Our delivery mechanism is more efficient, Zex explained with what Ryan interpreted as professional pride. The active compounds are encapsulated in nanocarriers that target specific receptors. As the medicine took effect, Ryan began to feel significantly better. His headache receded, his throat felt less raw, and breathing became easier. But his isolation had just begun, and the novelty of being treated like a walking biohazard would surely wear off quickly. Dr. Corlin arranged for Ryan's diplomatic materials to be delivered to his isolation chamber, so he could continue preparing for upcoming negotiations. Meals were provided through the same delivery system that had brought his medicine, though Ryan quickly discovered that the ship's galley had limited experience with human cuisine. By the evening of the first day, Ryan had settled into an uneasy routine. He was just reviewing notes on the trade dispute between the Andorian Mining Consortium and the Floxian Agricultural Collective when an alert sounded and the chamber's communication system activated. Ambassador Daniels. It was Captain Valera, the Horizon's commanding officer. I trust our medical team is taking good care of you? As well as can be expected, Captain, Ryan replied. Though I still think this quarantine is unnecessary. The captain's expression remained neutral. I understand your frustration, but we've just received alarming news. A crew member from the engineering section has reported symptoms similar to yours. Ryan sat up straight. That's impossible. Common cold viruses are specific to humans. They can't infect other species. That was our understanding as well, Captain Valera said grimly. But Engineer Trell is definitely displaying signs of respiratory distress and elevated temperature. Dr. Corlin is examining him now. A cold feeling that had nothing to do with his illness settled in Ryan's stomach. Could he have brought something deadlier than a common cold aboard? The implications were terrifying. I need to speak with Dr. Corlin immediately, Ryan insisted. He'll contact you as soon as he completes his initial assessment. The captain promised before signing off. Ryan paced the confines of his isolation chamber, his mind racing. Earth had strict protocols for screening diplomatic personnel for communicable diseases before off-world assignments. He had passed all those screenings with flying colors. There was no way he could be carrying some unknown pathogen. Was there? Almost 2 hours passed before Dr. Corlin appeared at the chamber, looking more agitated than Ryan had seen him before. His crest was fully extended, and his scales seemed to have darkened signs of stress in his species. Ambassador, we have a situation, the doctor said without preamble. Engineer Trell's symptoms are progressing rapidly, and we've now identified 2 more crew members showing early signs of infection. What species are they? Ryan asked, dreading the answer. Trell is Caldarian. The others are Zalayan and Mreni, Dr. Corlin replied. 3 different physiologies, all affected. That shouldn't be possible, Ryan insisted. Human cold viruses are species-specific. They can't jump to alien biology. Our genetic structures are too different. Normally, I would agree, Dr. Corlin said. But we're detecting something unusual about this particular strain. It appears to be adapting. The implications hit Ryan like a physical blow. You think the virus is mutating to infect non-human hosts? It's a possibility we cannot ignore, the doctor confirmed. We're conducting genetic sequencing now to determine exactly what we're dealing with. Ryan sank onto the edge of his bed. Could this be some kind of engineered pathogen? A bioweapon? Dr. Corlin's expression was grim. We are exploring all possibilities, Ambassador. In the meantime, we've implemented ship-wide quarantine protocols. All non-essential personnel are confined to quarters, and the vessel has been placed under Level 1 biohazard alert. I need to contact Earth immediately, Ryan said. If this is something that originated from our planet, our medical authorities need to know. Already arranged, Dr. Corlin assured him. We've established a priority communication channel to Earth's Pandemic Response Division. They're standing by for our findings. As Dr. Corlin left to continue his work, Ryan felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on him. If a human virus had somehow evolved to infect alien species, he had unwittingly become patient zero in what could become an interstellar pandemic. The next 12 hours were a blur of medical tests, emergency communications, and growing anxiety. Ryan provided multiple samples: blood, tissue, respiratory secretions, all whisked away for immediate analysis. His condition remained stable, neither improving nor worsening, which only added to the mystery. Meanwhile, reports from around the ship grew increasingly concerning. 7 crew members were now showing symptoms, and Engineer Trell's condition had deteriorated to the point where he had been placed on life support. Just after what would have been dawn on Earth, Elara, the xenobiologist, appeared at Ryan's chamber with news. "We've completed the genetic analysis," she said, her skin almost completely transparent, a sign of extreme stress in her species. "It's not a rhinovirus, Ambassador." "Then what is it?" Ryan asked, his mouth suddenly dry. "It appears to be a chimeric pathogen, a hybrid," she explained. "The core structure resembles a human adenovirus, but it contains genetic elements from multiple sources, including some we cannot identify." "You're saying it's engineered?" Ryan felt sick for reasons that had nothing to do with his infection. "That is the most likely explanation," Elara confirmed. "This pathogen could not have evolved naturally. The genetic modifications are too precise, too intentional." Ryan's mind raced. But who would do this? "And how did I get infected?" "I was screened before leaving Earth." "We don't know yet," Elara admitted. "But there's something else. The virus contains a genetic sequence that acts as a kind of dormancy trigger. In humans, it causes mild symptoms indistinguishable from your common cold. But when it jumps to non-human hosts, those same genes trigger a much more aggressive replication cycle." The implications were horrifying. It was designed to use humans as carriers, Ryan realized aloud. We wouldn't even know we were infected because the symptoms would be so familiar, so ordinary. Elara nodded solemnly. "Your immune system recognizes it as something it knows how to fight. Other species have no such recognition or defense." "We need to notify the Galactic Alliance immediately," Ryan said. "This could be the first stage of a biological attack." "Captain Valera is already in emergency session with the Alliance Security Council," Elara assured him. "But there's something else you should know. We've traced your movements since you boarded the Horizon, and we've identified when you were most likely exposed." "When?" Ryan asked. "During the diplomatic reception on Starbase 12, 3 days before your departure," she said. "You met with representatives from at least 12 different worlds. Anyone could have exposed you, perhaps without even knowing it themselves." Ryan thought back to the reception, the handshakes, the shared air, the ceremonial drinks. Any of those contacts could have been the moment of infection. "What can I do to help?" he asked, pushing aside his own fear to focus on the crisis at hand. "Your immune response may hold the key," Elara explained. "Since your body is fighting the infection successfully, we may be able to isolate the specific antibodies and use them to create a treatment for the affected crew members." "Take whatever samples you need," Ryan said without hesitation. The next several hours were a flurry of medical activity. Ryan submitted to numerous procedures as the medical team worked frantically to develop a treatment. His blood was drawn repeatedly, tissue samples taken, and even his exhaled breath captured for analysis. By the end of the ship's cycle, Dr. Corlin returned with mixed news. "We've developed a provisional treatment based on your antibody response," he reported. "Initial results are promising. Engineer Trell's condition has stabilized, and the progression of symptoms in the other infected crew members has slowed." "That's good news," Ryan said, feeling a glimmer of hope for the first time in days. "Yes, but we're still facing a serious situation," Dr. Corlin cautioned. "The Galactic Alliance has confirmed similar outbreaks on 3 other vessels and 1 space station, all with human diplomatic presence." This is coordinated, Ryan realized. Someone is using human diplomats as unwitting vectors for a biological attack. That appears to be the case, Dr. Corlin agreed grimly. Alliance intelligence is already investigating. They're particularly interested in any groups that might benefit from disrupting human integration into the galactic community. Ryan thought about the implications. Earth had only recently joined the Galactic Alliance, and not all member worlds had been enthusiastic about humanity's inclusion. Several factions had openly opposed it, arguing that humans were too unpredictable, too aggressive, or simply too different to be trusted. What's our next move? Ryan asked. For now, we continue treatment and containment, Dr. Corlin said. And you, Ambassador, will be working closely with our medical team to refine the antibody therapy. Your immune system's response is our best weapon against this pathogen. Over the next 3 days, Ryan's isolation chamber became the center of an intensive medical research operation. His condition gradually improved as his body naturally fought off the infection, providing the medical team with valuable data on the progression and resolution of the disease. The treatment derived from his antibodies proved increasingly effective. Engineer Trell was taken off life support and began showing signs of recovery. The other infected crew members responded well to the therapy, their symptoms receding faster than the medical team had dared to hope. On the 4th day of quarantine, Ryan received a visitor he hadn't expected. Ambassador Thrix of the Arcturian Confederation, appearing on the chamber's communication screen. Ambassador Daniels, the elderly Arcturian, greeted him, the long tendrils that served as both sensory organs and emotional indicators waving in a pattern that suggested extreme agitation. I come with a confession and an apology. Ryan sat up straighter. Ambassador Thrix? What's this about? The Arcturian's tendrils drooped in what Ryan recognized as shame. It was elements within my government who created this pathogen. I have just learned of this treachery, and I am horrified beyond words. Ryan felt a surge of anger, but kept his voice steady. Why would the Arcturian Confederation develop a bioweapon targeting Alliance vessels? Not the Confederation officially. Thrix hurried to clarify. A radical faction within our military intelligence division. They fear human integration into the Alliance will diminish Arcturian influence. They developed this pathogen specifically to use humans as unwitting carriers, hoping to create fear and distrust of your species. They're succeeding, Ryan said grimly. Perhaps not, Ambassador Thrix countered. Your response, your willingness to help develop a cure, even while suffering yourself, has made a powerful impression on the Alliance Council. And the fact that the perpetrators were quickly identified suggests the plot has failed in its primary objective. Ryan wasn't entirely convinced, but he appreciated the Arcturians' honesty. Have the responsible parties been apprehended? Most of them, Thrix confirmed. And I personally bring you the formula for the definitive cure, as well as the original pathogen design. Our best medical minds have been working non-stop to undo this atrocity. Ryan felt a mix of relief and lingering anger. I appreciate that, Ambassador. I'll make sure our medical team receives the information immediately. After Thrix signed off, Ryan forwarded the data to Dr. Corlin and sat back, trying to process everything that had happened. What had started as a simple cold, or what he thought was a simple cold, had escalated into an interstellar incident that could have had catastrophic consequences. Within hours, Dr. Corlin returned with news that the Arcturian cure was being synthesized and would be administered to all infected crew members. The prognosis was excellent for full recovery with no lasting effects. And what about me? Ryan asked. Am I still contagious? Dr. Corlin consulted his medical scanner. No, Ambassador. Your immune system has effectively neutralized the pathogen. You're no longer contagious to any species. So I can leave isolation. Yes, the doctor confirmed, activating the release sequence for the chamber. You're free to return to your quarters. Though I would recommend another day of rest before resuming your full schedule. As the transparent barrier retracted, Ryan took his first deep breath of unfiltered ship air in nearly 5 days. It felt strangely momentous. Thank you, Doctor, he said sincerely. And please extend my gratitude to Zex and Alara as well. Your team quite literally saved lives. As did you, Ambassador Dr. Corlin replied. Your cooperation and your body's natural defenses provided the template for our initial treatment. Without that, we might have lost Engineer Trell and possibly others. Ryan nodded, humbled by the thought that something as simple as his immune response to what felt like a common cold had made such a difference. As he walked back to his quarters, he received nods of respect from crew members. He passed a marked change from the fear and avoidance he'd experienced when first being taken to isolation. Word had clearly spread about his role in developing the treatment. Back in his quarters, Ryan found a message waiting from Captain Valera, inviting him to a private meeting once he felt well enough. He decided not to wait and headed directly to the captain's ready room. Captain Valera greeted him with the formal Palaxian gesture of respect, 4 fingers pressed to the center of the chest. "Ambassador Daniels," she said warmly, "it is good to see you recovered and back among us." "Thank you, Captain," Ryan replied. "I understand we've weathered this crisis better than some other vessels." "Indeed," Valera confirmed. "Thanks in large part to our medical team's quick action and your cooperation. The Alliance vessels Intrepid and Stargazer weren't so fortunate. They each lost crew members before the cure could be distributed." Ryan felt a pang of sadness for those losses. "Has the Arcturian government made an official statement?" "Yes," Valera said, gesturing for Ryan to take a seat. "They've issued a formal apology to the Alliance and to Earth specifically. The perpetrators are being prosecuted under both Arcturian and Alliance law. The diplomatic fallout will continue for some time, but the immediate crisis has passed." "And what about human-alien relations?" Ryan asked, getting to the heart of his concern. This plot was specifically designed to make other species fear humans as disease carriers. Captain Valera's expression softened. "I think you'll find the effect has been quite the opposite of what was intended. Your willingness to help, even while suffering yourself, has made a strong impression. And the fact that human physiology provided the key to treatment has many species re-evaluating their understanding of your people." "Really?" Ryan was surprised by this assessment. "Ambassador, in the past 5 days, I've received messages from the commanders of 17 Alliance vessels, all requesting human medical personnel be assigned to their crews as soon as possible," Valera revealed. "They've seen how your species' unique immune adaptations can be an asset, not a threat." Ryan couldn't help but laugh at the irony. "So a plot to turn the Alliance against humans has actually fast-tracked our integration?" "So it would seem," Valera agreed with a small smile. "Life often unfolds in unexpected ways." 2 weeks later, Ryan stood in the Horizon's transportation bay, preparing to beam down to Proxima Station for the trade negotiations that had been postponed during the crisis. He felt fully recovered, though the experience had left him with a new perspective on interstellar diplomacy and on the simple cold viruses he'd previously taken for granted. Dr. Corlin and Nurse Zex had come to see him off, along with Alara and several other crew members he'd worked closely with during the crisis. "Ambassador," Dr. Corlin said, extending a data crystal. "The final report on the pathogen and our response. Earth's medical authority requested a complete accounting." "Thank you, Doctor," Ryan said, accepting the crystal. "And thank you all for everything. I know my insistence that I just had a bad cold must have seemed dangerously dismissive at first. An understandable response based on your experience," Zex said graciously. "And in the end, your assessment wasn't entirely wrong. To a human, it was relatively mild. Still, I've learned not to be so quick to dismiss alien medical concerns," Ryan admitted. "Different species, different vulnerabilities. A lesson for us all," Alara added. "We've updated our medical protocols to account for species-specific responses to pathogens. What might be fatal to one species could indeed be just a bad cold to another." Ryan stepped onto the transporter pad, feeling a strange mix of emotions. What had begun as a frightening medical emergency had evolved into a powerful learning experience for everyone involved. "Ambassador Daniels," Captain Valera said from the control station, "the Proxima delegation is ready to receive you." Ryan nodded, straightening his diplomatic uniform. "I'm ready, Captain. And may I say, despite everything, it's been an honor serving aboard the Horizon." "The honor has been ours," Valera replied sincerely. "Safe travels, Ambassador. And stay healthy." As the transporter beam engaged, Ryan smiled at the irony of that parting wish. A simple cold had nearly caused an interstellar incident, exposed a biological warfare plot, and ultimately strengthened humanity's position in the Galactic Alliance. Not bad for what he dismissed as just a bad cold. The blue shimmer of the transporter enveloped him, and Ryan Daniels disappeared from the horizon, heading toward his next diplomatic challenge, one he would face with a newfound appreciation for the complex interplay of biology, medicine, and interspecies relations that defined life in the Galactic Alliance. And perhaps most importantly, with a healthy respect for the deceptively simple viruses that had co-evolved with humanity for millennia, harmless companions to humans, but potentially deadly threats to their new galactic neighbors.